So today we're here with Sharan Kalva, a dear friend of mine and the president of C-StoreMasters. Sharan, so what do you guys do here at C-StoreMasters?
We're a distributor for convenience stores, so your local bodega, gas station, everywhere you can go purchase your most convenient products. We supply to them in about 30 odd states within the country.
So, convenience store distribution is a pretty niche business. How did you guys get into this space?
So it started with my dad. Him and his friend Sandy, who started the company, were both operators of convenience stores. And so it started from a problem, like most things. There wasn't a distributor that could handle or had the capabilities of a larger organization and had the agility of a smaller organization. So we wanted to build something that kind of bridged that and really solve our own problems. So that's how it got started. There was a problem in the industry and we tried to solve it ourselves.
So what exactly was the problem? Because obviously you have the big suppliers that does a lot of things, right? But what niche do you guys fix?
So yeah, I think playing in the middle, I think we created our own segment in the market. The primary distributors have a vast portfolio. They have good supply chain, but they lack that personal touch of a smaller independent, kind of a smaller distributor. The smaller distributors have that touch, but don't have the capabilities of a larger distributor. So we kind of bridge both of those and take it to the next level of using technology. So really segmented. We own that segment of the category now.
Okay. So when you guys started it, how long have you guys been doing this business?
So this is about 7 years old as a company.
7 years old. Wow. And how did you transition into this? Because you went to college, right? So what were you doing in college? What did you do afterwards? And how did you end up, being the president of the company?
Yeah. So I went to Auburn and we ended up. I studied industrial engineering. So natural progression was industrial engineering supply chain role right out of school. Worked for a company called Stryker. Did some of their global supply chain stuff for 2 years, and then left to come here. So had a lot of other opportunities, and the reason I came here was kind of mainly one, it had the things that I was working and I built that skill set on. And second thing, it's a family business. So it wasn't really doing that great, to be honest. And we had an incredible upside to grow. We had a lot of problems to fix as well. So the only reason is that I'm an only child, and if my parents invested some considerable amount of money into this business, so if things worked out, it would be retirement for them. And so that was my main motivation coming into the business and kind of getting involved 4 years ago. And then it started off working. My first project was an M&A deal. It was out in the middle of nowhere, Cookeville, Tennessee. We acquired a small distributor that was it was pretty much shut down. It was off they shut down operations for a month. They're completely closed. We acquired them. They were doing $400,000 at that time. Now we do about $5 million a month. So we've been able to scale that. And so that was the first project. And ever since then, I started taking in more and more responsibility of fixing processes, setting up the right leadership team, and kind of setting the strategy. There was a lot of opportunity to wear different hats. And so as time went on, started taking on more responsibility and eventually got to the role I'm in today, which is managing most of the company, especially around operations, and strategy and acquisitions. So pretty much end to end, except for finance and software side of things. I leave that to Sandy. Outside of that, most things come into my wheelhouse.
So what were the biggest issues you guys were dealing with when you joined? Because it wasn't doing that well, right? So what issues and what challenges were you guys facing, and how were you able to make it better? Maybe leveraging your previous experience at a bigger company. Like, how did you do that?
So understanding what is world class, and so in a way that there's understanding what's world class is important. Also having, I think, the mindset of let's take it even further than that. So first thing I did was, so let's describe the problem first. The problem was we were really good at a few things, but we were trying to do everything. We did not have a proper strategy in place of why are we trying to get this customer? What segment are we playing in? really didn't know why we were doing certain things that we were doing. So first of all, I said, let's define our strategy. Who are we? What are we good at? What are we not good at? Can we carve out a segment of the market and really own it to focus our energy? And so that's what happened. Second was streamlining operations. So technology, we're very privileged to have the two founders are both tech people. So just giving the right kind of guidance from a perspective of here's what we need, and they went out, built it, and they really took it to the next level. So kind of understanding what we're good at and playing to our strengths was what really turned the company around. So, and also another factor with distribution is, as a distributor is, we made the decision to not compete on price. So we're going to be a little bit more expensive than other people, but we're going to give a really, really good service that people shouldn't mind paying a point or two extra. In the distribution industry, when it comes down to it, that point or two goes a long way. It's a low margin industry, and we did that. And the second thing was how efficient we were with our supply chain. So our key term in our industry is days in inventory. For tobacco products, we have 3 days in inventory. So imagine getting product today, and within 3 days it's gone outside. It's sold. So, and doing that cycle multiple times. So that is class leading in our industry. And so, shoring up our supply chain to really streamline the processes and be really efficient while actually giving better service and having customers pay a little bit more was great, because once the customer understands that we pay a little bit more but get better service, it makes it a pretty unique proposition, because our competitors can decrease their price, but they magically can't pull a lever to better their service. That is hard. Yeah. So we really understood our market, our skill sets, and just played to it. I think that's really what changed everything to get us here.
Okay, so when you say service, right? What is that service differentiator? Because when you say distribution, in my head, I don't know the business, right? I imagine is you send the goods they want to their store. That's it. But what exactly is the service component that make you guys better?
Yeah, so a couple of things. First is we send a person. Even though we have the technology to give someone an iPad, them order, we send a person in to the store every single week. We always send the delivery the next day.
Wow.
So that consistency of showing up, being there, and a lot of time you build trust in relationships. We make sure our salespeople are compensated well, so we get good people there. Second, because we get a point or two extra, we can pay our people better. And long story short is 60% of our stores, the managers don't even look at what our salespeople puts an order in. They just have that implicit trust. Wow. So that is like, imagine as a store operator or manager not having to worry about ordering, knowing that someone's going to do it really well for you. And imagine where we partner with a brand and bring a brand in, and when that salesperson mentions that to the manager, imagine how much leverage you have with them and trust you have with them. So that is the key when it comes to service. On top of that, it's technology, right? Whenever we have a problem, when we're out of stock, first thing we do is when a salesperson puts in an order is usually picked within an hour. So we will send an email or text message to the store saying, hey, we're out of these products immediately, which is, no one does that in our industry. So being transparent, being open, and because if you don't get that business, we don't want the store to be out of it. Let them order from somewhere else if they have the option to. So again, that's the service element of it, using technology to further service. At the same time, I would say just the human element of it, picking the right people, putting them in the best environment possible to give the best service. So that trickles all the way down to the bottom.
So you say you're in multiple states. How do you guys run the logistics and distribution when there are so much distance and area to cover?
So we have two business models. We distribute with our own fleet of trucks in and around the Southeast, Alabama, Tennessee, Mississippi, mostly around these areas. Then the rest of the area, we built a strong and robust e-commerce kind of process. So, it's just like a simple website. They order from it. They have their point of contact, and it's a UPS delivery to their door. So it's super easy. We've streamlined that process. So You really, if you can't do it in person, you leverage an existing network infrastructure on shipping and logistics. And so we've really built a process around that to increase that efficiency and really give them a good service around it.
Well, so what's the next step? Because obviously you have a brand new facility here, 135,000 square foot building. You guys, what are you planning to do with this facility that you couldn't do before? What are you going to do now? And what are you going to do? You've been here for 4 years, right? So it takes a while to build a building like this. So, you probably built this a year or 2 years ago, starting the process. So what's your plan? Like, you're 28. What's your plan moving forward?
So this took about 3 years to envision and build out. So my vision for the company is, it's different pieces. One is we built out the sales side of things. We built out the business model. Next, we built out a robust operations technology so we can scale it. Next, what we really want to add value is, a data analysis. Like, we want to tap into multiple sources of data and really, really know the market, external data, customer data, and really know where the market's headed before, the customers know it themselves. We want to know pricing of everyone and how we can sort. If we don't need to have every product, but we want to definitely, if there's opportunity where we are more price effective, to absolutely go in and start carrying those products, and having that data lets you do that. And second thing is marketing and merchandising. In the next year, we're going to be spending considerable amount of money building our own acrylic display machine. So we're getting a machine, and we'll get the molds so we can not only sell the product, but merchandise it properly. Imagine going to a store and saying, oh, here's the product, but instead of a standard cookie cutter kind of display, you give them a really good, robust display with proper branding, proper signage. That changes the equation. That's class-leading capabilities. And I think we'll be one of the few people in the country that have that almost end-to-end capability. So that's the strategy for this company from a capability perspective. From a scale perspective, I want to double our distribution footprint with our own fleet. So 4,500 stores. I want in the next year probably at least want to see 7,000 to 9,000 stores total. Independent stores that we serve with our own fleet. So really scale it. I want to make this robust process behind us robust, and maybe replicate what we're doing with another fulfillment center somewhere else in the country. But I think eventually what our goal is, I don't want to run this forever. The way my philosophy and leadership is find the right people and give them autonomy and put them in the right environment to grow. I want, even if I or any of the leadership team, Sandy or Satish, if they leave, right, the business should run by itself for 6 months. That's always been a big emphasis on me, is you can't do day-to-day and strategy at the same time. You want to be able to make small amount of well thought through decisions and have open space and kind of open runway to think and really, get innovative there. So that's kind of what we do. And now my role is kind of changing from more of a managing the company to managing our entire portfolio. We have, aerospace and defense companies, mezcal company, a marina, oil distribution, oil C-store, C-store owning C-stores as well. So we got a pretty wide and diverse group of businesses, and across multiple continents. So goal is to, one, I say there are 3 ways to kind of really look at the progress of businesses. How do you make your money? How do you save your taxes? How do you reinvest your money? I think our real emphasis right now is like, how do we, one, gain efficiency? How do we grow our business? And then reinvest into the business, and then acquire some more businesses along the way. So, and I'll be responsible for that component of it and managing from a board level of, across multiple of our businesses.
So how many people do you guys hire right now just for the C-stores business?
C-store business. So with the scaling up that we're going to do in this building, we're going to add about 30 more people. I mean, we got about 200 odd people right now.
Okay, and then are they mostly doing the distribution part, or what do they do? The 200 people you hire, what's most of their jobs?
The 200 people that we have right now, it's a majority are sales. I mean, we do fulfillment very efficiently. We don't need it. a ton of people. We have a big and really strong group of delivery drivers and salespeople. They both are left arm and right arm situation. So they're majority. Then we work very lean in the warehouse with few people, but our goal is to we get 5 times the efficiency now with this robotic system. So majority sales and delivery, and then we have warehouse staff here, and then the leadership team around for the individual business. Yep.
So at what point are you thinking about retiring? Because you're 28. That's pretty young, right? So, but you've done a lot for such a young age.
It's an interesting question because I think about this a lot myself because what I think money allows you to do is gets you the freedom to do whatever you want, and success. I want to be able to pursue my passions. I want to have the time to, really enjoy the small moments in my life. Really be, have a stable schedule and so on. So I don't think I will ever retire. I would just say from the perspective of my next steps are kind of really, I put a goal of 35, just kind of retirement from a perspective of, being fully involved in any one business. Following that, it's just I actually enjoy scouting new businesses, understanding how they work. So I think the next couple of years is just making sure these businesses are good. We've had a couple exits. There's some, we might acquire some more companies. So a lot of opportunity. So I think just if we just shore up our existing businesses, maybe there's a couple, again, exit opportunities here, and then acquire new businesses and then scale it, and then put a robust leadership team in place. And as our holding company grows, we're adding more people on the corporate holding level. So CFOs, counsels, like CTO, people who can add value to all our portfolio companies. And so our goal at that point would be, more high level, just, administrative, like, board level tasks, and kind of helping out with the strategy here and there, but nothing tactical, nothing day to day.
So you touched a little bit on this, but what makes you happy, right? You say money gives you the freedom to do whatever you want.
Actually, I genuinely do enjoy my work that I do. I love solving problems. Something about looking at a business, understanding its fundamentals, see if you can add value, and then kind of going through the entire cycle of it. It's very exciting for me. I do enjoy that. I do enjoy working with my team. So all this gives me happiness. I say, what eventually down the road, what I want to get to is be able to still be, partially involved in these businesses, like still at the board level. And yeah, just I will have more time to, I don't have to be geographically in one particular place. I do want to travel. That's one of my biggest passions, is traveling, meeting new people, exploring different ideas. But I think I spent some time with my mentor, recently, and kind of we've defined. He's helped me define a one little sentence to to kind of sum up what I want to do next. I want to invest in people and their ideas while traveling the world. So that's kind of like what's next is exactly that.
Wow.
And that encompasses, traveling, encompasses meeting people, building relationships. If there's an idea worth investing in, absolutely. If not, just good communication, feedback. That really to me is exciting, and that that doesn't seem like work to me at all.
Yeah. Well, speaking of travel, where do you want to go next?
So, as you know, I've been to a lot of places. So the things that kind of have evaded me is Japan. And so we have some good mutual friends that that trip's coming up soon, probably next year, early next year. And then the Whitsundays. I want to spend a few weeks just sailing around the Whitsunday Islands in Australia. So it's gorgeous. It's blue water, white sand. It's just a gorgeous place.
Wow. So besides work and traveling, right? Is there anything that's I would say a very simple pleasure that makes you feel happy, that just give you peace and happiness? Is there anything like that?
Yeah, I would say a couple things. One is cooking. I love cooking.
You haven't cooked for me yet.
I mean, there might be a time in the future.
Well, I hope so. So you like cooking, and what else?
So cooking's like very relaxing to me, but outside of cooking, I love hosting and kind of I like having people around me. I'm definitely an extrovert. It's in a way it sounds weird, but having people around me and hosting kind of is relaxing in a way. But so a unique thing is I'm a som. I'm a level one som, so I love like being able to suggest wine to people, so on. So it's the idea of hosting, getting people together, connecting people. Those are really exciting things for me, and I love doing it. Outside of that, kind of I make it a mission to always try new things, and that's a pretty broad statement, but like usually I'm not one to say no. So if anyone says let's do something or let's try something different, I'm always down to try and explore, and that's something that's again a big passion of mine is just to get out there, meet new people, and try new things.
So you guys are in Huntsville, Alabama, right? It's a kind of interesting place to be, especially for an immigrant. I know you told me some stats on Huntsville, Alabama, the most concentrated PhD per capita. So tell me a little bit more about Huntsville. My first time here, came here just for you, for your grand opening. So tell me more about how your family got here, and tell me more about Huntsville.
So I think it all started with my dad was a tech guy and still is, but he was working for CNN, Turner Broadcasting, as a software guy, and one day he said, he's always been an entrepreneur. So one day he said, I'm done with this job thing. I'm gonna go find a business wherever it does. I'm not really specific to one area, but where I find a good business, I'm gonna move to. So he ended up coming here. He acquired a couple fuel retail opportunities, and he grew that business. So it's kind of it came out of, I guess, just an opportunity. The opportunity was here, so he can end up here. But what we found along the way is Huntsville is on this incredible trajectory. It is a unique thing about Huntsville. It's kind of like where the space program, American space program, began, and there's still a heavy presence of NASA. There's a lot of real high technology defense contractors here. So you see an incredible amount of PhDs per capita because of all the research, all the innovation that's going on here, and so yeah, and that's kind of how we ended up in Huntsville. Why did we stay in Huntsville? I guess is the business is here, but we're just so connected to the community here and our customers. It just makes, and our team members. We could have, fun fact, we don't say it often, but we could have moved our facility about 8 miles out and like saved $1 million, but we chose not to.
Wow.
Because it's going to make it harder for our team members. Not everyone might be able to make that commute. So putting people first, and just with everything, how fast Huntsville is growing, I think it was a good decision, and I think we're committed to Huntsville with this new facility.
Now you live in Nashville, right? So it's about 2 hours drive. Why did you make that transition to move to Nashville instead of staying in Huntsville? And what's your plan? Are you planning on opening an office in Nashville as well and grow more into a metro area? Or what are your thoughts there?
So we have, I mentioned the acquisition earlier in Cookeville, Tennessee. It's about an hour from Huntsville. Sorry, an hour from Nashville. It's 2 hours from here. Part of my role is traveling, a lot of traveling, and I need to be near a larger airport, and an area that's close to both Huntsville, Cookeville, and with the larger airport is Nashville. So with the amount of traveling I do, it saves me about 3 to 4 hours every time I travel, every single time, every week. So the numbers add up over time because there's direct flights versus everything here is pretty much connecting unless you're going to Miami or Atlanta or DC. So there's 3 or 4 options, and that's about it. So I think Huntsville is a little bit smaller from that perspective. So I do spend time here. I don't envision opening an office in Nashville. My role is more remote, and as I mentioned, my role is also changing to the point it's less management of the business, day to day of the business, and it's more corporate strategy across all the holding companies and board level administration across all the holding companies. So which requires travel. So Nashville is a good spot for me.
Okay. Why not Miami? Is it just because Nashville is closer?
Yeah, it's 1 hour to Cookville, it's 2 hours to Huntsville, right?
Okay.
And another thing is I like Nashville because it's the right size. It is. I can get to everywhere in 15 minutes. I can in like 14 minutes I can go to the airport and valet it and just really make a flight in maybe 45 minutes before departure. I can leave my place and then make a flight, and I do that pretty regularly. So sheer amount of time I save is incredible. And being in Nashville, and then I have a good community of friends there. It's another rapidly growing city, and a lot of innovations going on, a lot of entrepreneurship. So a lot of things that I resonate with, and just good people. So Nashville's a good choice for me there.
Okay. And then you mentioned obviously your roles is transitioning from seeing day-to-day operation to other more strategic innovations and strategic investments and all of that. But so how does it work, and what has it been like to work in a family office, well, your family business, with your dad's partner, friend, and also how has it been like managing people from all different ethnicity and all different age group? Because being the age you are, right, and also being the only son of one of the partners, how do you overcome that? Any sort of doubt, any sort of reservation that people might have?
Yeah, I think first I think you have to earn your chops. Like the simple answer to that is, nothing's given or granted. You got to work and prove your worth to everyone. It starts with clearly understanding whose responsibility is what. What am I good at? What am I not good at? And I think playing to those is very important. So when I stepped in 4 years ago, I said, I want this area, and I'm going to do it well. I'm responsible for this. I'm accountable for this. This is what I'm going to be taking over. That's the way I operated. And thankfully, both Sandy and my dad are very easy to work with, in a sense that we're open communication, honest. We all inherently have a lot of trust in each other, and that we're doing things. And we work well because we have different skill sets too. Because strategy, I'm really good at strategy. Sandy's really good at execution. My dad's the soul of the company. What I mean by that is, he for years and years would go hours out of his way just to go help someone. And he is the first person to remember people's birthdays and their kids' names and how are they doing. And so he is definitely the soul of the company. Sandy's very good at execution. He is, he's very, tenacious. He will just keep, following up and doing. He's really good at that. I'm really good at seeing what's the next picture. How do we strategize that, and how to try to execute from it. Execution, Sandy helps me, and both of them help me a lot in the execution of it. But strategy, really, where are we going? Why are we doing these things? Like, a lot of times we don't. Most of the times people won't be able to answer that. And I think we are able to, and we're able to see the next steps, next things, and I think that's our individual skill set. So we play well. We have different skill sets, and we play to our skill sets, and it's not a unilateral. No one makes unilateral decisions. We all talk together. Everyone does their task, but there's no one's like, this is your role, this is my role. It's kind of, we all work together to try to make this happen. From a perspective of team members, yeah, as I said, you got to earn your chops. It is, it's when you learn pretty quickly. Just because your dad is the founder of the company doesn't mean you get people's respect. You have to, or even having a couple degrees on your wall doesn't mean you get respect either. You get respect by relationships and really showing what you can do. And I always use this word or phrase, influencing through relationships. Mm-hmm. So I think I'm a big believer in that, and really building relationships. And I think first part of the relationship is just being open, transparent, honest with the way who you are, what you are, and and kind of. I'm also, my management style is a little different, where I am not a micromanager. I give very a wide band. So people, I try to put you in the right spot, the right situation, get you all the resources, and you go with it. I don't want to micromanage you, and I can't. You can't do that at scale. You can't micromanage at scale.
You can't, really
Yeah.
can.
So I mean, I think to answer your question, I think it's just you build that trust through the way you operate. It's not an overnight thing. It takes years to get.
Yeah. So what would you say you learned the most from your dad and his partner? And what they learned from you? Because I think it's, even though there's a big age gap, right? I think it's interesting that we all learn from each other and there's different perspectives. So what do you think you guys learn from each other the most?
So I think from, again, Sandy is the way he tenaciously, attacks a problem and really follows up there. I think that's, incredible. And I try to be more like him that way. Yeah, with my dad, as I said, like the soul, really. It's just relationships. Like, it's easy to come from like, oh, I got an engineering degree. These are numbers. Let's do this. Versus, hey, how's everything going? What's going on? How's this process been? Like, what's your thoughts on it? Because this thing is saying something. I want to hear how your thoughts are. And that is way different than just saying, here's the number, let's do it. So kind of learning that, over time was a pretty important thing for me. As someone pretty early into his career, 2 years in, 2 years out of school, I ended up coming here, and so it's one thing working for a bigger company, and then working for a smaller company. So I think, it was understanding people and how to influence through relationships was my dad, and then more Sandy would be kind of how tenacious he was. I need to get more like that, just following up and just really executing and killing it at that. And what they've learned from me is to kind of not just see what's in front of them, but like look a couple steps ahead and see how things and patterns arise. And so really, we didn't really have a company, I guess, mission. And so it's just something that never, they never came to their head, right? I would say, when I started, I said, okay, what are we trying to do? How are your team members going to know? Like, someone comes in new, how are they going to know? They need to know something, right? These are things like fundamentals. Doing the fundamentals really right is something I think they pick from me, because I put a lot of emphasis on the fundamentals. What are we good at? What are we not good at? What is the mission? What are we trying to do? Start from a very not only the next step, but why, peel it back a couple steps and really get to the bottom of it.
So working with your father, being the only child, how has that been?
In a way, what I try to do is, there's obviously going to be overlap, but we structure it in a way there's accountability, but I'm responsible. So this is my task. This is what I'm going to do. I'm responsible for it. I'm still accountable to you, but we don't go too much into the details. And his role now is more of oversight across the board. So, and I think, unique thing between the relationship between me and my dad is that there's no kind of ego in a sense of I could be right, he could be right. There's no right or wrong really. It's like, here's my thoughts on it. I can openly have those conversations with them.
How does this strengthen your relationship with your parents at home, or do you think it creates a different type of struggle or any tension there, being family members and working together?
Yeah, there's not a lot of overlap. So, for one, but right now, and previously there was, but I think when you have that scrappy mindset early on into a company, I don't think everyone's just trying to get stuff done. So there wasn't really like any conflict or anything like that. But I think I spend more time with my parents and just we're more aware and and present in each other's lives. I think it's definitely a blessing for me, and I'm obviously an only child, so I get to spend more time with them. So I get to come to Huntsville every couple of weeks. I spend a day or two, and so at least every couple of weeks I get to see them for one, and then just understanding, when you have fun trips, you can go with your dad, and for work, and you really stay in closer touch. So it actually helps a lot.
So that should bring you guys closer.
Absolutely.
How do you stay true to yourself, not get lost in the sauce?
I say, like, first taking care of yourself. Like, I always, the way why I could meet you out in like London and then go to Ibiza and then Capri was because I take time for myself.
Yeah.
I work hard, but I know myself well enough to know that I will burn out if I don't take care of myself. So traveling is a way for me to do that. So I think, yeah, one is taking care of myself, which puts me in the right headspace. And then on top of that, I would say, relationships and, for me, like friendships, you saw some of my friends, like, from all over, they came all over. So you saw someone come from Boston just for this. Yeah. Someone, they drove down from Birmingham, and they all know me a little differently. And because, I'm ever evolving, and, it might be little things, but it might be their sense of humor, or, it might be our random experiences together. But I think relationships are more important to me than anything else. Like, I value relationships, and what I look for in a relationship is it can never be one-sided. It has to be, I expect to get as much out of I give into the relationship, and again, some of my friends I haven't not seen in like a couple of years, but they come here. It's like it's like we've been friends and in touch regularly, but that's just how good friendships are. You keep them close. So staying humble, I think, is kind of what are your interests, right? It all depends of who you are, what you're trying to do. For me, I'm pretty low key in terms of, I don't need necessarily, I'm not a big bottle service or go out kind of guy. I like a good quiet drink, a close group of friends, good conversation. Obviously, love some good food. So that's my vibe. And I mean, outside of that, I'm like fairly simple otherwise. But going to the point of being humble, I think it's just you learn. I think it takes some life experiences to get to understand that, because you got to experience the good, you got to experience the bad.
Yeah.
And I think as someone who's experienced both, it gives you a unique perspective and helps you stay humble.
Yeah, and it helps a lot too, right? I think for me is the more success I have and the more things I do, and I meet people who are even more successful and even more humble, and you're like, wow, like you really feel like, damn, like there's level to these things, and if there are people out there that are much higher level and that's still so humble, you really kind of like not smack you down a little bit, but it's like, hey, like watch yourself, check yourself a little bit, right?
Gives you perspective, honestly. Like I always think there's going to be someone better, something greater out there, and I think knowing that keeps you grounded.
Exactly. So we touch it briefly on this about work-life balance, right? You know yourself, where you burn out, so you have to travel. So how do you manage that, and how do you do that for your team members as well?
Yeah, I mean, work-life balance for me is just making sure, am I doing something that I'm actually interested in? One, am I managing my time properly? So what I want to do with, the way I reset is being able to, travel or being able to spend some quality time with my friends, right? Is for me to recharge, and so I need time to myself for that. So I first create time. You gotta, even in work, right? If you don't take care of yourself, no one else is going to. So you gotta put aside time for yourself. So one, I always take time to travel. So that's why you get to see me in Miami quite often. And at the same time, even if I have work trips, right? I'll take a day off and I'll go explore, do something fun. I give that same opportunity to my team members. Like, so, if someone is preparing for a half marathon and they want to take 2 hours in the middle of the day off, but as long as the work gets done, it does not matter to me. We're all about that flexibility. Taking time for yourself is important. Actually, something I recommend to my team members too highly, is use your time off. Why not?
Yeah.
If I'm working for a company, I want to take the time off.
Yeah.
I want to use it. Why can't you? I mean, if you're not able to, then we got a more systemic problem.
Exactly.
If you can't even use your time off that we were being given. So, we always say, like, set your team members in a way that, all our, leadership team and, managers and higher, we say, keep part of your schedule free so you have time to think about things, time to, like, if you want to take your time off, some time off, or, if you want to be a little bit flexible, you have the ability to do that. So really keep it open. And I just want to give the same opportunity to everyone else in my team. So it kind of goes both ways. So one, taking care of yourself and knowing, how you function. That's why people burn out is they work hard, really hard, and it's not sustainable. Sometimes, I tell them, we've had, that's one of my things I'm really passionate about with my team is like coaching on that, because a lot of times people will keep are stuck in the cycle of like very unhappy, not doing the process properly, and it's like a lot of unnecessary work. I'm like, instead of that, let's get ahead of it. Let's fix the process for you. Why exactly are you having to do that? And so a lot of coaching goes on. So I'm, as a industrial engineer, you learn a lot about systems and processes, and there's a lot of correlation to psychology. And so interesting thing that is we take from that and then you implement that in your managerial style, or help people fix some problems. It's how do you continuously improve? And the unique thing here is we instead of like being stuck in this chaos and cycle, let's get ahead of it, solve a problem, and then you're ahead, you're doing good, and it's a permanent fix versus something short term. So that's something I'm very passionate about, and that applies not only work for personal life. So the whole goal, the point I'm trying to make here is that I tell my team members that and we give a lot of flexibility in terms of work-life balance.
Yeah, because I think it's very interesting thing about today's day and age, right? We have the hustle culture, right? We have also like the people who don't really want to work, but the hustle culture sometimes is they work unnecessarily hard and unnecessarily not effective, right? I think because for you, in order for you to have a work-life balance that you like, be able to take time off, travel, like during the summer we were in London, we were in Ibiza, we were in Capri. To do that, you really have to be effective with your time, and you really be strict with your time. Where if you do something, you gotta do it right and then do it fast, right? Otherwise, you don't have the time to go out and enjoy and screw around like we did. But how do you see that translate into moving forward as you grow older and as you have more responsibilities? How do you see that evolving, right? Because you have more things you have to do. How can you, you can still be very effective with your time, but how do you find time to actually take care of yourself as you have more responsibilities?
Yeah. So I think one, as you said, the hustle culture. Hustle culture is great. I have mad respect for people who are trying to make it, are hustling to make it, really. But it's not sustainable. Everything about a startup is basically you're work fast, agile, working hard, long hours, right? This company was exactly the same, but it's a phase. It's not sustainable long term. The company might come out of it okay, but people are not going to. So I kind of say there's a hustle might be a phase to it, but you also have to think about it in the grand scheme of things, where if you look at it from a silo, yeah, it's good, great, things are good, but it's not a long-term thing, that's for sure. I mean, as me having the chance to travel and explore and do all of that is me taking care of myself. And I think your question there was kind of how is the relationship between, being able to take care of yourself to kind of, I would say, between like a culture of like hustle culture or like working hard. And I think another point you made was over time you have more responsibilities. So you get a family, you got a lot of things coming on board. Your job might be the same, or something might grow, but you might have a family, you might have more responsibility. So how do you I think the question was, how do you envision that, and how do you take care of yourself in that scenario?
Exactly. Yeah.
I think the work is a component. So you have to put aside time for yourself, and if that is you reimagining, if you have more responsibilities, I think there's a fundamental reimagining of, I think that's a conscious choice you're making right there when you have a family, that you have to think about the implications of it. So in a scenario, if that were me and if I were to have a family down the road, I would try to figure out more time for myself and try to see how I can reduce some of these responsibilities here at work, or if there's tasks like that. So, but thankfully I have a role in which I am, I have the flexibility, and I tend to always keep a lot of space open on my calendar. The reason is the best work is done when I'm, one, not stressed. You're making very well thought out decisions, and you can see new opportunities, exploring, meeting people. You get to see new opportunities, and that's a core part of my job. So thankfully, I have that I've made that choice to set up my company that way, and so all of that is a conscious choice, and you need to keep that in mind while you're making these decisions. And when you do make these decisions, it comes back to you, and where you have to, if you have to reassess how much time you're spending at work, or if you have to reassess a job, that's completely okay.
Yeah.
That's normal. I mean, you're making choices. If you want, it's a different career path and effort if you're trying to be the CEO versus you're content being a manager, right? It takes different things, and if you, education, time, commitment, travel, relocation, in general perspective. So these are all the factors that go into it. So you need to first know what you want, and work backwards. And when you make these conscious decisions, reevaluate. But it's not sustainable to not put aside time for yourself.
Yeah.
You can't. You just are not going to be successful. Some of these CEOs that you see, we had a few people come down yesterday, some leading the large organizations. One thing you see about them is they're not back to back busy. We have a lot of friends that are in contacts that are always working, always doing something. But there's a core element of inefficiency. Like, why are you working that hard?
Yeah.
At some point, you got to delegate. I mean, people don't delegate because of two reasons. One, there's not enough work. They're just they're just doing it inefficiently. There's actually not that much work, but they're just doing it really inefficiently, or they just don't trust people to delegate enough. So I think these are bad habits that you just got to figure out.
That's scale, right? Because you can't scale if you just keep doing everything yourself.
You cannot, and so that's why micromanagement. I'm very much against micromanagement, because if you put the right people with the right values and capabilities and put a good environment for them, they'll produce amazing results.
Yeah.
I think having and building that team is quite essential. So you don't really have to do everything yourself. Keep that time, and as we see these bigger CEOs, and they have the time for themselves. They have the time to socialize. They have the time to build the bonds, the relationships of doing it right. That's a lesson I've learned along the way. Is don't necessarily say hustle culture is the only way you're going to be successful. If you're especially an entrepreneur, right? How do you have sustainable processes to scale? You need to create time for yourself so you can think about what's next. So I think that's essential, and I think that's people who do that well can scale well.
Mm-hmm. So I want to talk about this. Is delayed gratification and instant gratification, right? Because we live in a time where everyone wants instant gratification. Mm-hmm. How do you think that plays into your success?
That's a fundamental choice I had to make, right? Working for a Fortune 200 company, traveling around the world, doing some, really fun stuff, meeting cool people, back when you're 22, 23, get that corporate card, expense all the drinks out, good food, and actually do some really very fun projects and meet some good people along the way. That's awesome. That's great. That was more instant gratification.
Yeah.
Entrepreneurship, the path of entrepreneurship itself is a delayed gratification, because
it's horrible.
Yeah, it's tough. You don't know what's going to happen. You're putting all, you're putting you're giving it all you got. You're
all your chips on the table.
Everything, and then you're making an honest effort of trying to make things happen. It's not. It's not. Might not. Mostly, a lot of times, it actually doesn't work out.
Yeah.
So it's but the upside is massive, right? If it works out, it's phenomenal. So, I mean, the point here is, instant gratification is really good in the short term, but again, long term, when you really put everything on the line and think strategically, the answer is pretty clear. But you can take multiple examples for this, but instant gratification. I think everything comes with a certain cost, right? To get it right now might be not as good as getting it down the road, right? See, like the act of maybe sleeping in that one day, right? It's a different perspective when you try to take time for yourself, but it's an instant gratification of, oh yeah, I get some rest for tomorrow, sleeping in, versus you work, and then once you made it, you get more time off, kind of, and you're very free and able to travel. I think that this ties into our previous conversations there.
Mm-hmm. Do you think anyone should be an entrepreneur? Because the reason that I think about this, right, is life is short. Mm-hmm. At the end of the day, we all die, right? Mm-hmm. And do you think everyone should have lived the most they can? And entrepreneur is the way to do that, because you are putting all your chips on the table, do everything you got, and take a risk on yourself. Do you think that's what everyone should do? Or do you think there are people who should just work for someone?
I say, no, entrepreneurship is not the path for everyone. And I'll tell you why, right? I have some friends, they're really content knowing they're going to get a paycheck because they have responsibilities. And they don't want to take that risk. At the same time, they don't want to work crazy hours. Mm-hmm. That's just not what they're interested in. They don't need a super fancy car, super nice home. They want family time. To them is very important. It depends on what a person wants, right? Some other people might want to be able to do the things that they would do, early retirement one, fancy cars, fancy home, whatever you need. But entrepreneurship is not for everyone. I can say that for a fact, and not everyone should try to be entrepreneurs, because you need to have incredible amount of discipline. It's not just putting all the chips on the table. If you don't have the will to follow through, what's going to happen? You have high chances of failure as it is, and if you don't put your best effort, you're going to fail. Mm-hmm. And then what are you going to end up with? Nothing, right? Entrepreneurship is not for everyone. Now, that's absolutely the point. I say it's a choice, and I think people who only have the conviction of putting in all the effort should be an entrepreneur. If not, it's not going to be a pretty ending.
Yeah, but what I'm thinking is the quote, right? The whole thing about, what would you do if you knew you wouldn't fail? And I'm just thinking about this. I understand, I agree, entrepreneurship is really not for everyone, but don't you think that everyone would love a life of having everything they could have, but they just too scared to pursue it? Or do you think some people are just very content with what they can get?
I think that a lot of people are very content with what they can get. This is not a diss against anyone or anything like that, but I'll give you an example, right? As engineer, you graduate, it's pretty structured, regimented, you make X amount, a few years later you make X, whatever. At the end of after giving 20, 25 years of your life, you're probably making $300,000 to $500,000. We're talking really, successful people who've done things really well, right?
What engineer are you talking about? Like industrial?
Industrial engineer, okay. Mechanical, chemical, whatever it is. They can make way more as an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
But it takes more risk, right? So the point I'm trying to make, here is that not everyone, I think the answer is not entrepreneurship. When you say, like, if you couldn't fail, what people would do, the answer is not always going to be entrepreneurship. The answer could be something completely different. Some people have incredible career trajectories in jobs, where they're doing good, they're killing it, they know they're going to grow, and they're going to end up being very, very successful down the road. That's one example, but the exact point I'm making is that even if if you say there's a scenario where you couldn't fail, not everyone would still choose entrepreneurship.
That's interesting to think about. I think just because maybe the personality we have and the things that we do is just a little different, right? So I think.
Yeah, I'm very much pro. I'm very much pro entrepreneurship. I love it, and I couldn't do anything else. I feel I want responsibility. I want to see the results of my actions. I want to risk it. I want compensation proportionate to the way I work. Right. These are all things I want. A lot of open space for me to do my things. Let me innovate. Right. These are things I want, and I can only get that through entrepreneurship. Right. Some people might not want that.
Yeah. So not everyone should do it, but if you want to have the freedom and to excel and to do the most you can, then you should give it a try.
I'll give you the pros of like kind of entrepreneurship, like what really appeals to me, and think what should appeal to a lot of people is that I think inherently and systemically there's a lot of jobs that are set up in a way that it benefits the companies, not the people. The entire cycle and process is, it's not really, it doesn't really benefit anyone except for the company that's employing them. Entrepreneurship is a way where you can get out of those shackles, right? You are able to do what you want. You're able to kind of have the freedom to do however you would want it, as long as you can, achieve a certain outcome and you're confident in yourself. You can do it. The idea is good. Your effort is good. Boom. You will be successful. So it's a way out of the structured cycle of some of these jobs. I mean, not all jobs are like that, but a good chunk of the jobs are set up in a way where they want you to keep working with little increases here and there, and you're stuck there for before you know it, it's 30 years you've given your life for this one company, versus you put in that same effort for yourself. I personally think the result will be much different, but that might not be the want of everyone.
Well, yeah, but I mean, think about it, right? So there's no way a company's gonna hire you and pay you the amount that's face value of what they get. It's the spread, profit margin, arbitrage.
Absolutely, it's massively different. If you don't get multiple, it's still the numbers don't make sense.
Exactly. So why would you hire anyone? So it is interesting that people. I think maybe not everyone think about it, but if you have a job that you get paid $500,000 a year, your job is probably worth $1 million a year. They're probably double. It's probably the minimum profit margin they need.
Absolutely.
So it sometimes baffles me that people don't think that way, and people don't try to do something for themselves. Because at the end of the day, like all these jobs that you do, that security is one thing for me. It's like I want to feel secure. I feel like when you have your own job, it's a lot more secure when compared to having a job at a company, because people have final decision. People have they can tell you can work here or not. Like there's a lot of things that it's not on your own.
An interesting point. I'll give you like a little opposite take on that. A lot of times people believe that it's inherently believed that companies, or at least the persona that company and the jobs they're working for bigger companies are way more stable than something that do something for themselves. Yes, doing something for yourself is riskier, but once it's set, it's more set. Versus working for a company, you don't know what could happen, honestly. You can have everything go perfectly well. They might hire a new CEO or a new department head. Might be budget cuts. Everyone's trying to squeeze out, more profits and so on. So
I do want to say that you're right. Like people think, like with big companies, you're just one little piece of a giant machine. So
and something could change. I mean, I think the confidence is not found based on reality, because anything can happen, right?
Yeah.
It's not like it used to be, where people would work for one company for years and there's this massive, I think in the 80s, 90s to early 2000s, until the early 2000s, I think it was like incredible growth and stability. It's very stable.
Yeah.
But when things go wrong now, things,
they're going quick.
They're going quick, and I don't think there's that inherent. I think that's a good thing. We kind of brought up this conversation. I don't think the job security is like it was before.
No.
And I mean, that's one of the main advantages of a job, corporate job, is the job security.
Yeah.
So it's I mean, the point is, and with now there's so many tools and platforms to help you start a business much easier, quicker. So as long as you have a good idea, I think it's much easier to start it and you'll be way more successful. And I think it's really, I personally think if you have the right idea and the capabilities, entrepreneurship is way better of an answer now more than ever.
Yeah.
Especially with uncertainty around these corporate jobs.
Yeah. Especially like right now with technology, right? Like years like 20, 30, 40 years ago, decades ago, the technology wasn't there where people are actively trying to replace your job. Now in corporate America, every job they're trying to actively figure out a way to cut costs, to replace you with AI, with whatever, the newest technology is, right? Mm-hmm. So yeah, there is no more security. It's not like back in the day where you have a retirement fund, retirement plan with General Motor. Like now they fire you. So it's really that's it. So yeah, 100% agree. I think if you want to do something, do it for yourself, and don't do it for anyone else. Well, thank you so much, Sharon, for having me here in this beautiful facility, and drag me out here to Huntsville, Alabama. I don't think I will come back anytime soon. But we gotta do a trip in Nashville.
Sounds like a plan. No, thank you for coming.
And that's it, right?